Even though Traoré is being accused of being a dictator, then he's a good dictator. Totally. Because for the first quarter of 2026, we've seen massive developments in Burkina Faso. Massive developments. Now, in today's video, we are going to look at what Traoré is doing in relation to digitizing the airport's operation in Ouagadougou. If you're new here, Ouagadougou is the capital city of Burkina Faso. Now, let's have a look at the digitization process in Burkina Faso. Then when we come back, we will be looking into the video further and analyzing what is happening in Burkina Faso.
Issue is really to streamline the management of migratory flows. So as you know, the current government policy is to work on digitizing all procedures in order to make things easier, all activities within the public administration. Today, we are launching the embarkation and disembarkation police form in our airports. You know that for years, this form was filled out manually. As soon as the passenger disembarked, it was necessary to look for the forms, to fill them out in a language that the police officer, of course, understands, and to provide all the information on this form. And this really caused inconveniences and also difficulties in terms of processing and even in terms of statistics. So today, with the launch of this form, we are already able to solve the problem of processing time for police forms at the airport. You can see that in 30 seconds, we are able to register the passenger. Secondly, we are also able to solve this issue of inconvenience for passengers, because before boarding, you have time to fill out the form in a language that you are comfortable with, and this makes processing at the airports easier. And thirdly, we are also able to solve the problem of processing these forms, because since these forms are registered in advance, the immigration officers have time to process them, to see who should be allowed entry into our territory, who should not be allowed entry, and who needs to provide additional information so that we can authorize them to enter our territory. So all these issues today, we believe that all these difficulties are now behind us. Today, with this tool, with the digitalization of the police form, the embarkation and disembarkation forms in our airports, we can guarantee that from now on, processing time is reduced, and the handling of these forms will also be done under the best conditions and in an efficient manner.
Once passengers have successfully arrived on the digital platform, they will be granted the opportunity to carefully fill out their required forms and will also have the ability to modify any information if it becomes necessary at a later time. Should you encounter any technical challenges or require further guidance, please do not hesitate to contact our dedicated technical support team for immediate assistance in case of any difficulty. Furthermore, we highly recommend that you consult our comprehensive FAQ section, which includes detailed answers to certain hygiene-related questions, specifically designed to help all travelers with the process of accurately filling out their personal forms. And finally, you should change the settings of the platform language to English, for those who speak the English language. The presenter will now give a demonstration of how to register a travel form. When the passenger clicks on Submit the form, they must enter their information. You need to provide your personal details, including your last name, first name, gender, and maiden name if applicable, as well as your full date of birth, your place of birth, and your current email address. They also fill in information about their occupation, their job title.
There is massive progress in Burkina Faso, and we thank President Captain Traoré for spearheading this agenda. Now, previously in President Traoré's speech, his agenda is one, at least to catapult Burkina Faso to another level as far as development is concerned. Because he said that the main reason why he's doing this is because Burkina Faso was way back. Actually, he said that Burkina Faso was living in the 80s before he took power. Can you even imagine that? That Burkina Faso was living in the 80s before he took power. Now, it was incumbent of him to make sure that Burkina Faso is seeing development, and we can see what he's doing. The digitization process of the airport operation. So this basically means that if you are a visitor in Burkina Faso, things will be moving very fast. You'll not be spending a lot of time in the queues. Okay? The immigration process will be smooth. It is as simple as that. That is some of the development that we as Africans, we are aspiring. Look at what Traoré has done to the airports. Look at what he has done to education system, collaborating with countries like Russia, China, taking researchers from Burkina Faso to go and study in Russia and China. Then they come back to Burkina Faso and solve the problems within Burkina Faso. That is what we are doing. We are aspiring. That is what Africans are doing. Even though Traoré is being perpetrated and is being accused of being a dictator, then he is a good dictator. It is as simple as that. And I can't wait to see what Traoré is going to do the second quarter of the year. I know he's going to do massive development. By the end of 2026, then Burkina Faso will be competing with the rest of African countries. That's the reason why he did away with political parties, okay? Because he said that political parties, they were a hindrance. They were acting as a hindrance block for development in Burkina Faso. So we have to give him a part for the role that he's playing in Burkina Faso. It is as simple as that. Traoré is taking Burkina Faso to another level. He is an African leader who is admired by the young Africans, both in Africa and both in diaspora. And you know what? Most of this development that Traoré is doing in the Burkina Faso, the developments are being done from the national coffers, the Faso Mebo initiative. So meaning a huge percentage of cash that is being used in Burkina Faso, it is not a borrowed cash. The cash that is being used for development in Burkina Faso, a huge percentage of it is coming from the people of the Burkina Faso. And Africans, both in Africa and diaspora, even the Europeans, those who love what Traoré is doing, they are contributing to Traoré's coffer, the Faso Mebo initiative. That is what we want. So you can imagine if Burkina Faso had this kind of a leader 20 years ago, where could this country be at as we are speaking now? It will be competing in the international leagues. Believe you me, it will be competing in the international leagues. But not only Burkina Faso, the entire Sahel region, they are doing something amazing, something that we as Africans are aspiring. Okay? They are doing something that we as other Africans are aspiring. I read yesterday that the Sahel region, they are doing what we call one currency. They are trying to incorporate the economies of their countries and to come up with one currency. And this currency will be used across the Sahel region. If you don't know the Sahel region, I'm talking about Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. So they are coming up with one currency so that they can trade with ease. They are trying their level best to make sure that Africa or the Sahel region, the borders are open. There are removal of tariffs and non-tariff barriers in the Sahel region. So this is what we as Africans are aspiring. And that sometimes I normally think that we need to benchmark what the Sahel region are doing, because the African Union is a toothless bulldog. They are saying the right thing, but they are doing the wrong thing. We've been having this organization for years, but you cannot see what they are doing. Look at what is happening in Sudan. Look at what is happening in Congo. Look at what is happening in Congo. Total mess. But the African Union is not doing anything. So we have to benchmark what the Sahel regions are doing. Then when we come up with an agenda, then we can catapult our continent to another level. It's as simple as that. And we don't have shortages of people who can lead this continent to another level. We only need to elect people in power who love our countries, people in power who love our continent, for us to realize our potential. So ladies and gentlemen, if it's your first time here, kindly subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your friend. See you next time.